this. So hopefully. I hope my notebook's over there. All right. Wow, there are two people here. All right. I'm going to try to reach for my notebook. Not that there's anything in it. I just want to get a page open so in case I've got to take notes as we go. Good afternoon, I guess. I hope I'm not interfering with football, but probably am. If you're like me, you kind of got up, you were thinking about things last night, you got up trying to think about what's coming next. And you don't have the same advantage I have of being able to talk to a bunch of different people. Not that they really know anything, but maybe they each know something or have their own input. And I just took a walk to Capitol Hill, had a lunch, walked back. It's a long walk both ways. And I thought, it's a beautiful day, by the way. I thought I could take a nap or maybe I should go live. I think that's what's fair to you and to talk about it. We experienced something last week where I think all of us, me too, we got built up expectations after such a long wait that the news was somehow gonna set it off. I think the news wasn't complete, particularly as it related to the acquisition. Maybe that was it. But another thing, the news sort of came in the middle and partly late in the day for the second piece, before maybe a 4-day weekend in Canada, certainly a 3-day weekend. And maybe it was just too much to expect. I think, as we've discussed, I don't want to belabor, I mean, I think Hemingway would have written it differently. We bought the company. He'd send it off. But remember, so that we know all that. But so what did happen on Wednesday is that it set up, it opened up, it started a period where the company can sound its own horn, and it can do it anywhere, everywhere. There's a lot yet to come. And I tried to figure out this morning, well, actually I was watching Djokovic lose. Djokovic went up against this Paul Bunyan of a man. I mean, the guy was built like an oak tree, and he just thundered serves and forehands and backhands. And it was obviously hot there. And I think Djokovic is very powerful too, but I think this guy's a whole different species. And it just got Djokovic's lower back. It's too bad. He had a chance to win that this year, but he had some great shots. Anyway, while I was watching that, I was trying to come up with, what do I think the stock's going to do next week, the following week? What's it going to do by the end of October? What's it going to do in November? I spoke with a friend of mine. He said I didn't add it up, but he said there's 45 days left in the working year. I don't know if that's true. There's 3 weeks in October. I suppose he means there's the holidays at the end of November. So I guess maybe there's 3 weeks in November and there's the holidays in December. So maybe there's really 4 weeks in December. So there's 3, 3, and 4, maybe 10 weeks. Yeah, it sounds like he's right. He must have added it up with the holidays in there. So it's 45 serious days that Wall Street can work. I've been told that up in rail land, nobody's taking vacation. Obviously, that's not 100% true, but they're going to work. They're going to work full on through the end of the year. So anyway, I tried to go through that. I tried to look up, 2 of you, I think, were questioning whether data centers, what's going on in Canada with data centers and whatnot. One of you questioned, not personally, but you highlighted Deutsche Bank being very negative on AI. And mostly one of you said, where do we go from here? So let's see if we can talk, random thoughts. One thought I had, I haven't done it. I'm doing it now. I haven't done it prior to, just as I was walking home, I thought, well, what would happen if you remember that Uniserve that was announced in the afternoon on Wednesday? It had 3,000 companies, small and medium size, who, what wasn't clear in the news was, is Uniserve just going to make Railtown part of the bundle, or do they have to go sell to each of them? Who knows? And revenue wasn't in there either. But in this report from Research Capital, he uses a number. If Vanarapapundi is a man, it could be a woman, uses a number of software engineer, one human being software engineer, of $108 per year, and it's per project. But let's just use, I just thought, what would happen if you used, sorry, is it 108? Yeah, 108 per year. Actually, I don't think that's right. It's 108 per month. That's what as I was walking home, it's 108 per month. I don't know. Maybe I have that wrong. But I was just thinking, let's use $100 a month. If each of those 3,000 companies sign up and just use, they pay $100 a month, which I think is ridiculously small. But what would that mean? That would be 3,000 a month times 100. Sorry, 3,000 companies paying 100 a month. In that USSS.CN stock. All right, so that would be, and unfortunately, that's what we're left with. We have to guess right now until the company talks about it. But 3,000 times 100, that would be 300,000 a month. Times 12, that'd be 3,600,000 per year. That's for the announcement they made on the, whatever it was called, United Software USSN, a 30-year-old company in Canada, small and medium-sized businesses. Trades at 60 cents or something. So it's silly. I have no idea where to start on a calculation. 3,000 corporate company, small to medium, paying $100 a month. $100 a month gives 300,000 in revenue a month times 12 months gives 3,600,000 in revenue from one contract to Railtown. I assume it's going to be largely profitable. Right now, first movers and the arms race to acquire companies and value companies, it's as high as 200 times revenue, 150 times revenue, 100 times revenue, 75 times revenue, 50 times revenue. SoundHound trades at 35 times revenue and they don't make any money. So let's use 50 times revenue. And I don't know. I'm totally admitting to you, I'm showing you my line of thought and I'm creating it in front of you. That means $180 million, perhaps, in enterprise value from that contract. Maybe by the end of the year, they get credit for that. If they have 225 million shares outstanding, that'll go up, I'm sure. It's 80 cents a share from that contract. 80 cents a share. Of course, announcing the contract did nothing to the stock. So, anyway, that's a minor thing. But I think the contract was valuable. I think the fact that we have no idea what it really translates to is our disadvantage, not the disadvantage of the bigger, knowledgeable, and insider in the know type investors up in Canada. So I don't think, my bottom line point is, I think that USS.CN contract Wednesday is valuable, even though the market didn't give it any credit. So I think what's going to be happening this weekend and happened the last 2 days and Monday, apparently US markets are open on Monday. Let me Google a question. Do Canadian stocks trade on the OTC during a Canadian holiday exchange close. All right, so yes, Canadian stocks can trade on the over-the-counter market even when the major Canadian exchanges are closed for a holiday. So we have to look out for that. That'll be the last chance for the criminals to crush the stock and try to take some from you. Somebody pointed out to me on Friday that Canaccord was on the bid all day long. I don't have that service, but that was new. Canaccord really hasn't been there, apparently, and now it was on the bid, sort of sopping up any sales. That might bode well, but I wonder what happens on Monday with a holiday closure of the exchanges in Canada. Did I tell you already that we have 13,559,830 shares? We're at 13,500,000 shares of Railtown. Not bad, huh? So let me go down my list of things that I thought could happen in the near term. I think next week. So anyway, what I was telling you, I think what's going on right now from Wednesday, and the poor guys probably won't even have time for a yam or a candied yam or roast moose. I bet Corey's been on the phone nonstop talking to investors and potential investors, and I would guess at least one research analyst and maybe overpaid wankers and maybe some underpaid wankers. And I think his phone lines are busy. Also Marwan's and Dr. Tom Core and John Ruffalo and Mike Nobrega, all of them. So I think that's my number one thing that could happen next week. I think all of those conversations, all of those questions being asked, all of those presentations, maybe it's presentations, I don't know. I think next week, what we have going for us, and Monday might be difficult, because I would expect, I hope not, but I don't think Canaccord is open on Monday, so that's the last time they can scare us. We'll see what happens. Canadians can trade in the U.S. markets too, so they could be buying on Monday. Anyway, so my number one reason the stock might start going up next week is Railtown has been able to tell the story. The story's being told. And I bet it's being told to people that can buy a lot of stock, maybe not under $1, but they can listen. When it's over $2, they can buy it. Anyway, that's my number one reason. And I think that could be worth, as the week goes on, as the beat goes on, I don't know, I think that could be worth 50 cents to 75 cents a share next week is simply the fact that I'll just narrow it down to one human being, that Corey is able to answer all the questions from that press release, all of the excitement that he has with many of these investors now. He can share information, particularly if they're professional investors. This information is now public. He can talk about it. That's a huge advantage for him and for us now. He can talk about the deal. He can talk about what's ahead. He couldn't do that for 7, 8, 9 months. So I think next week that's worth 50 to 75 cents a share. And we're starting at 50 cents. So let's call it 50 cents, just to be conservative. I think that one thing is worth 50 cents a share. The unknowable is, when do the shorts stop shorting? When does their credit get cut off? Monday could be touch and go, because that's their last chance. But you might be able to buy. You might be able to buy Monday. That might be your opportunity to take advantage of their reflexes. I think next week could be a week where, let me put it this way. I think there's a pipeline that's built up with Railtown. Now, that's an assumption, but I think it's a pretty safe one. They've been working hard. This product is first to market. It's receiving huge acceptance, and they already, I'm sure, have been trying to cross. I don't know for sure. These are my assumptions. They've been cross-selling into the AIP market. They've now announced 5, by my count, revenue deals, without revenue, of course. But I think the company has to start announcing and telling the story about all of these pipeline opportunities as they solidify them. When does that start? How many is it? I bet it's quite a few. I mean, there were 5,000 customers in that network. If they just got 1%, well, that's probably a lot. 50 is probably a lot. If they got 0.5% of those, that's 25 signing up. Who knows? That Kumbaya group they signed up with, I forget the name. Destiny's Child, digital. Maybe. I doubt they've talked to any of those yet, so I doubt there's anything there. But then they've been going to the conferences, and they've I don't know how many. What did we just add up? There's 3 weeks in October, 3 weeks to work, 3 weeks in November, and maybe 4 weeks in December. So it's 10 weeks. Let's say they have a dozen of these, give or take, that they have to get out by the end of the year. Will it start next week? I would think there'd be something next week. Let's do it like I said. Let's just smooth it out. Let's spread it out. We'll just say that one of those pipeline deals gets announced every week. 10 of them, 12 of them, one of them. And it starts next week. I don't know. We'll find out. But let's say a revenue deal gets announced next week. I'm going to assume it's going to have zero impact on the price of the stock. Diane Keaton just died La-di-la. That's too bad. That's too bad. Um, so I'm going to assume if there's a news of revenue this coming week, it'll do nothing to the stock price, just like last week. But at some point, these will build up momentum. Let me assume next week that the vote on the AIP acquisition is finalized. And I think that will it be announced, or will they bury it in the bottom or as a final sentence in some other complicated headline so they bury the lead? They might. They don't. I don't know who writes their press releases, but there might be reasons. I don't want to be critical. But I think if the vote is acknowledged as completed and that acquisition is indeed tied up in a bow, I would guess if it's announced, I'm going to be conservative. I think it'll give 25 cents to 50 cents next week in increased price. I'll use the low end, 25 cents. Some people might disagree with me, but I think, let me see if I can get his name. Vinek Valukamindi. Can't see his name. Anyway, this research report analyst, I think people would disagree with me. So I have to warn you that I may be being too optimistic. Here he is. Venkata Velakapudi. Venkata Velakapudi. I think there's a good chance he's going to update his research next week. Nobody's told me, but if I were he, I'd be racing to get it out. So I think that could come out next week. And I think that would be worth, I don't know how many people follow him, how many salesmen they have at Research Capital, if any. But I think that would be worth 25 to 50 cents as well, initially, for next week. What else? The next week and the next week and the next week, I think, on average, we might see weekly news as it relates to Railtown, but I'm just trying to figure out next week. An unknowable is what happens if it goes over $1. How much does that add further to the price? I don't know. I'm going to say 0 right now. And 6 if it goes over $2. I'm going to say 0 for both those. I think both could be dramatic once the stock starts getting up to these levels and then going higher. I think it'll bring in additional buying. And I think there could be research from other people, but I don't know about next week. It's always possible that they could announce an AIP roll-up deal, but if I were doing it, and we've learned now, we learned from logic that it's very hard to roll something up or roll a series of companies up if you don't have much value in your stock price, I guess. I don't know what happened with logic. So I don't think we'll see that next week. It could be down. We will. I'm sure they'll announce something before the end of the year. So those are my 5 things, I guess. So Railtown's out telling its story to everybody, and therefore that implies to me that buying can come in next week that we didn't see so far. I think they'll announce a revenue deal soon, and it might be next week, but I give it a zero add to the stock price. I think the vote, it's a guess, but I think it'll be finished and maybe announced next week or disclosed somehow. I think that'll give 25 cents a share or higher. I think research will come out. Now that's aggressive on my part, but Venkata wants to earn her bonus by the end of the year. So get it out while the stock price is down. I think that'll add 25 cents. And then the stock, as it crosses each of the dollar thresholds, I'm giving 0 for that. So I'm giving 50 cents for delayed buying. I'm giving 25 cents for the vote. And I'm giving 25 cents for the research. We're at 50 cents today. I'm predicting by the end of the week next week, the stock will be $1.50. And that's how I get to it. What happens after that, and after that, and after that, I still stand by. We'll go up on average, $1 a week till the end of the year. But anyway, that's what I think could happen next week. So Monday could be a chance to buy. Why don't we look at the positives? There might be a chance to buy stock in a spike. I wouldn't sell tomorrow. Remember, Canada's closed. It'll be all manipulation tomorrow. If there's any selling, insiders aren't selling. So that's my prediction for next week, and I gave you the parameters of it. It's wild ass guess, WAG, but what are we left with other than kind of trying to give reasonable guesses about what's coming? I bought this today, and I can't stand this guy. I used to think he was pretty much of a great businessman, but I can't get past the fact that he's a genocidal Zionist, murderous human being. But anyway, let's ignore how many people he's having killed in the Middle East with his money and his lobbying, and let's focus on the headline. There's several headlines here about AI, but let's go to Ellison. Wow, Trump may appoint a guy to the Fed that doesn't have gray hair. I am getting old. Oh, they have an article on tricolor. That could be interesting. Business development companies have 10% yields. I don't know. I can show you 10% yield better. I don't know if it's better. All right, so here is this aging, murderous fella. And there's the headline. Larry Ellison's latest gambit is his biggest ever. The headline on the front page of the magazine is, Oracle's Larry Ellison has been writing technology trends for 5 decades. AI, artificial intelligence, is his biggest bet yet, other than the complete remaking of the Middle East. All right, so the Andy Serwer is the journalist. The subheadline is, Oracle has roared into the AI gold rush, but it's taking on huge amounts of debt to do so, starting with an $18 billion bond offering. And then we'll see how this starts out. I won't read every word and probably will muff it at a point or two. Larry Ellison is running the table. Oracle, the giant software company he founded and controls, has been killing it. I'm reading YouTube. I'm reading the article from Barron's. Has been, really doing well. Reporting a massive increase in new business from the artificial intelligence boom. Its stock has been on fire. Dun, 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 dun. Climbing 373% over the past 3 years. Crushing the market, up 87%. I guess that's the market. And even its ancient foe, Microsoft, up only 123%. I can see where an arms race is going on. Zuckerberg is probably, oh no, that's Facebook. Microsoft is Gates. They're probably trying to catch up with him. Anyway, for a brief moment, that run-up made Ellison the richest man on the planet. His 40.6% stake in Oracle is currently worth $343 billion. Right, he's 81, children, buying TikTok. Perhaps the most gratifying to Ellison is that with AI, the world is coming around to his vision of what matters most in technology. It isn't the hardware or the consumer internet or even software. It's simply data. To Ellison, harnessing, managing, and monetizing data was, is, and will always be paramount. AI, which requires by far the largest data collection and optimization endeavors in history, graphically reinforces this point. Larry always had a passion for these giant processing systems running a ton of centralized data, says Zach Nelson, a former Oracle executive who became CEO of NetSuite. That's exactly what's happening with AI. Larry is in a sweet spot now, doing what he loves the most. Oracle has roared into the AI gold rush, inking a $300 billion deal with OpenAI. But with that comes huge costs and risks. On one hand, Oracle today looks perfectly positioned, and on the other, precariously perched, which isn't an unusual position for the company. To a mere mortal CEO, this would be a recipe for disaster. But for Ellison, it's business as usual. Oracle's AI play might be Ellison's biggest bet ever. Quote, Larry's always thinking outside of the box and what's happening next. Thomas Siebel, who founded C3.ai. He's resilient. The CEO and founder of Salesforce says, Larry didn't just name his company Oracle, he is an Oracle. Recall in the 1990s tech boom, Oracle was Silicon Valley's, one of them, it companies, along with Intel, Hewlett-Packard, Cisco Systems, Sun Microsystem. How do they stack up today? Oracle bought Sun. And as for the others, Oracle's market cap of $823 billion is more than 1.5 times those other companies combined. Like his brethren, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Bezos, and Jobs, Ellison is complicated. Born to an unwed mother, Kentucky rain. He wasn't interviewed for this article. Microsoft's in the green, Oracle's in the blue. And that's the kind of arms race going on. A lot of it's, you might say it's ego, but it's survival of the fittest too. His family, immigrants from Europe, took the name Ellison after Ellis Island. He grew up working class in an apartment building in Chicago. His adoptive father, Lewis, was an accountant, forever telling Larry he was a good for nothing. All right, I'm going to try to skip all that. Oracle doesn't have a consumer-facing business. It produces and sells a bunch of different B2B software, and they describe all that. He founded the company when Jimmy Carter was in the White House and General Stansfield Turner was running the CIA. That guy, Stansfield Turner, came into a movie theater that I went in with he sat down in front of my guest, and then his wife or whoever was on the other side. That's all I know about him. The CIA was Oracle's first customer. In 1979, Oracle introduced the first commercial relational database, which essentially organizes and manages data sets. Anyway, let me skip down to the next paragraph. Relational database software may sound prosaic, but it is the central nervous system of any digital business, which now means every business. A hugely powerful tailwind for Oracle. Competitors like Ingress, Ashton Tate, Sybase, Informix have come and gone, but Oracle remains the leader in this business, though SAP and IBM and Microsoft have significant shares. Speaking of Microsoft, that company went public on March 13th, 1986. Man, if I just stayed in the business, I stayed then, but I mean, if I had started then and then stayed in, imagine if I had made a campaign of putting that stock across all of my clients. A day after Oracle's public offering, both stocks went up 30%, but Microsoft grabbed more attention as its application and operating software for PCs was easier for most of us to understand. The rivalry with Gates and Microsoft has been about more than just stock prices and publicity. Gates the nerd, Ellison the renegade. Gates believed that computing was about empowering the decentralized PC. Ellison argued that computing power should be centralized. For decades, Ellison railed against Gates' take. "I hate the PC with a passion," he said in 1996. Turns out Ellison wasn't wrong, though Microsoft is far bigger than Oracle, with 4.9 times the revenue, $281 billion versus $57 billion, and 4.8 times the market cap, $3.85 trillion versus $823 billion. Less than 20% of Microsoft's sales come from its PC segment, which includes Windows, Xbox, search, and news advertising. In fact, both Microsoft and Oracle branched out from their roots. For Oracle, that meant first building applications on top of its database business to help customers connect and optimize their finance, sales, and supply side operations. Progress was slow, eh? And in some cases, Oracle's software was inferior to that of standalone competitors. But Ellison stayed the course. He was very focused on organic growth and anti-acquisition. His mantra was, "We're not acquiring any technology." And then 3 years later, he changed and he went out and bought everything. The big spree started with the hostile takeover of PeopleSoft for $10 billion, then Cybel Systems, BEA Systems, and more. Deals which put Oracle on the enterprise application map. Meanwhile, another seismic strategic shift was underway. Oracle's business had been based on selling what's known as on-premise or perpetual license software, where the company would install its software on customers' servers and computers and then manage the product. But in the 90s, it became evident that enterprise software could be cloud-based, hosted on the software vendor's servers, managed by the vendor, and paid for by subscription. This was called Software as a Service, or SaaS. Oracle was slow to board this train. Railtown, all aboard, with Ellison calling cloud computing quote, complete gibberish as late as 2009. Just get this in the light a bit. Okay. By then, SaaS pioneer Salesforce had been around for a decade. Behind the scenes, though, Ellison was hedging his bets. He personally invested in and served on the board of Salesforce, which was web-based software. And he persuaded former Oracle executive Evan Goldberg to found NetSuite, an SaaS company that started off with web-based accounting software. It took until 2010 or so for Ellison to move Oracle's applications into the cloud. And it wasn't until the middle of that decade that Oracle began to migrate its core data businesses, which came to be called Oracle Cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. By then, Amazon's AWS, Microsoft's Azure had built billion-dollar businesses, while Oracle's revenue growth slowed to a crawl in the 2010 from $35 billion in 2011 to $40 billion in 2020. AWS and Azure now have market shares of 30% and more than 20% respectively, and while Alphabet's Google has 13%. OCI's shares is in the low single digits. Now, though, the AI boom has given Oracle an enormous boost. For one thing, so much money has flooded into AI that it has jacked up all four cloud companies. You only have a few players that can do this at scale, and Oracle's one of them. So by definition, Oracle is benefiting, says Jefferies Brent Thill. Oracle stock has risen much more than the other three, in part because Oracle started from a lower revenue base. Oracle has some particular advantages. It has an integrated offering consisting of its revamped cloud service now powered by AI, its enterprise apps, and its latest core database product called version 23 AI. Also, unlike Google and Microsoft, Oracle essentially has no competing AI customer-facing products. Instead of competing with large language models like OpenAI, it serves them, giving Oracle a Switzerland-like positioning, neutral. By the way, I think that's right. Finally, Oracle has Larry. And then he's got a strong relationship with OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, another Zionist. Highlighted initially in January with the unveiling of Stargate, a venture amalgamated among among Oracle, OpenAI, and tech investor SoftBank Group to spend up to $500 billion building data centers in the United States to help power OpenAI's development. The high-profile announcement was made with Trump. All right, flash forward to September. The company announced that Safra Catz How did you know I liked cats? Was transitioning to executive chair. More momentous was the news that Oracle had increased its RPO, that's remaining performance obligations, essentially the unfulfilled backlog of signed contracts, from 99 billion to 455. So I guess that's what Railtown might have, is a RPO. A love RPO. I'm going to skip all that. All right. As for the economics and margins of this new stream of revenue, Oracle will need mountains of cash, as in tens of billions of capital, much of it to be used for NVIDIA chips, to build out capacity to serve the business, says Jeffries. Oracle turned free cash negative in fiscal 2025 for the first time since 1990. And it'll remain so for a number of years while it plows dollars into the ramp up. With more than 90 billion of long-term debt, Oracle is more highly leveraged, has taken on more leverage than its competitors. It's still investment grade. They just issued 18 billion. Ellison's involvement in TikTok is an AI-reliant algorithm company. It's all about controlling young people's view on what's happening in the Middle East. It has very little to do with China, by some people's opinions. He tried to buy TikTok in 2020. Anyway, let's skip all of that. Let's fast forward through TikTok and Skydance. Let's skip Paramount. Let's skip all of that. I just want to talk about the AI. All right, that's it for that one. Here's a headline. I'm not going to read this one. Here's a headline. Dell is just beginning to tell its AI growth story. Dell Computer. I'm not going to read it. Let's just see what else is here about AI. Here's one, Tech Trader. Let's read this one. Bubble or not, AI spending binge is unprecedented. Bubble or not, the AI spending binge is unprecedented. Let's see what Adam Levine has to say. One big question is haunting the bull market of 2025. Are we in an AI bubble that resembles the dot-com investment boom of the 1990s? There are frothy and reminiscent indicators like suppliers funding their customers and concentrated investment in a single asset class. AI data centers, all backed by the insatiable demand for AI computing. In the middle of everything is startup OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, which lit the prairie fire in 2022. It may represent a single point of failure for the AI trade. Artificial intelligence demand is fierce, but it's driven by future expectations of return on investment. Meta platforms, Amazon.com, Alphabet, and Microsoft are projecting $335 billion in capital expenditures this year. $335 billion in spending this year. Since 2024, AI startups have raised $259 billion. Woo. Leading the charge is OpenAI, which booked a record $40 billion funding round this year, a number dwarfed by spending commitments that OpenAI has made for the future. Last year, with ChatGPT growing rapidly, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman began pitching an audacious trillion-dollar investment plan to build new AI data centers around the world. Part of his plan was to scale ChatGPT to the size of Google search. Today, OpenAI has deals to build 16 gigawatts of data centers. Based on Wall Street estimates, they are likely to cost about $750 billion. OpenAI has also agreed to buy $300 billion worth of cloud computing services from Oracle over the next 5 years. Altogether, OpenAI is on the hook for roughly $1 trillion worth of spending. Sounds like Meghan Markle. OpenAI may very well be the hottest startup of all time, and there's a long line of investors looking to back it. But $1 trillion, to put it succinctly, is nuts. This is by Adam Levine. It's roughly 3.4% of the U.S. gross domestic product for last year, and about a quarter of all non-residential private investment. All of this from a startup that still has large and growing losses. I'm a big believer in AI, but I also believe in math. And the numbers don't add up. Well, that's arithmetic. That's not math. Adding is arithmetic. Anyway. So how will OpenAI and its partners fund the $1 trillion in spending that's driving the AI trade and the bull market rally? And why isn't the stock market more worried? It helps that OpenAI has major backers. Some $100 billion of the spending will come from NVIDIA. It's backing a slice of the data centers in exchange for equity in OpenAI. A modern take on the dot-com eras of circular financing deals. Other funds will come from well-heeled partners such as Oracle and SoftBank. But that leaves at least $800 billion in spending that will have to come from somewhere. Cash flow, equity, debt? At this scale, any of the three would be unprecedented in the long history of corporate finance. Cash flows, even if OpenAI becomes the next Apple, it would struggle to fund $800 billion in spending. That's a decade worth of Apple's free cash flow. Equity over the past 45 years, tech initial public offerings raised a total of $600 billion in inflation-adjusted dollars. All right, let's skip all that debt. There's always the debt market. Verizon Communications has net debt of $164 billion, but it's backed in tangible assets. OpenAI, AMD. OpenAI has committed to building 16 gigawatts of data centers through its deals with NVIDIA and Advanced Micro Devices. The last two nuclear reactors built in the United States, Georgia's Vogtle 3 and Vogtle 4, each generate 1.1 gigawatts. There's a lot of talk about small modular reactors, but to date, none have been built. AI data centers will still rely on gas turbine. Let's remember that. That's natural gas. And this will match people who were concerned. Should AI fail to find the money to back Sam Altman's ambitions, there could be a cascading effect that undermines the foundation of the bull market. Nowhere is this more clear than with OpenAI's cloud deal with Oracle. Oracle stock shot up 36%. Never before has one private company been so central to the stock market's success. Well, we'll see. There's supposed to be another AI article here. Latin American funds. The buyback aristocrats. We'll go over that another time. Let me just see if there's one more AI article. Gold's rally. Now everybody's a brainiac on gold. Goldman gets this market. Get its stock. I miss the little guy that used to give you insight. All right, let me go right at the front. There was an article on AI. I hope it's more positive than that Adam Levine article. AI isn't the dot-com bubble, but it still may end badly by Ben Levinson. Worries about an AI bubble have gone mainstream. From the pages of the New York Times, always a great newspaper, to trends on Google, people are looking for the ascension of companies CoreWeave, Palantir, the circular deal making among NVIDIA, OpenAI, and the tech companies of all stripes, and they draw the conclusion that there's a speculative bubble. And when bubbles are bemoaned, you can bet that mentions of the dot-com boom and bust won't be far behind. The word bubble may be one of the most overused in the financial markets. It gets tossed around whenever a group of stocks gains looks ridiculous. He talks about Kathy Ark's fund. AI isn't quite there yet. Anyway, it's rehashing the same idea. I don't, in markets, that kind of worry is probably a good sign, at least over the short to intermediate term. AI is a way of creating an asset that is essentially collateral for the banks. And maybe that's what's going on. All right. Let me go to your comments, and then I printed out a few things from yesterday. Marty Party, good afternoon. Eddie, Fast Eddie Eagle. Hey, Narad Wells. Cheers. Giuseppe Grano. Saturday, William is the best. Why? Because I'm not singing and I'm not an asshole. Clay Schoolfield. Hey, William. Hello, William. Thanks for coming on. Hold, 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 hold. Hey, good morning or good afternoon, account settings. Vinman. Why do I get the impression that the government will pull a similar U3 halt with crypto like XRP, institute XRP, and confiscate retail XRP like gold was once taken? I think what Wall Street's doing with Bitcoin and with all of the coins, and we can talk about, apparently there was a huge crash in all of that on yesterday. But I think Wall Street is gaining control of the crypto, and they're creating ETFs, creating products. Apparently, Morgan Stanley is going to allow trading of crypto online. And I think this is leading to the same gambit, which means that, and I don't know this, of course, but I think it'll mean, and you guys might say, well, it's all on the blockchain. But I think they can still create the distinction of legal ownership being its in street name at the depository trust, just like they do with stocks, and that everybody that participates on Wall Street just gets a securities entitlement like ownership. I don't know if that's going on, but I have a feeling it is. Bitcoin, to me, and all of these, almost out of nowhere, is now almost an asset class that provides collateral. How did it do it? The government, which is controlled by the banks, just prints endless money, endless money, endless money. And then it shows up as collateral in a brand new thing that was just invented 15 years ago. Well, doesn't seem like a lot. Brown University just came out that 5 days ago that since October 7th of 2023, the costs of the war project in Gaza and wider that the United States has paid for 31 to 34 billion. U.S. military spending related to the war in Gaza, it's not a war, it's homicide, and wider regional conflicts amounts to 31 billion to 34 billion. Well, it's a lot of money, but it pales to our debt. So anyway, I wonder if the whole crypto space is kind of a creation of collateral out of thin air over time that backs up all this lending and government debt that the banks, banks control it. But that's not really what you're asking. Would they confiscate XRP? I don't know. I don't know what threat XRP really is to the United States or to the SWIFT system. I think the real threat to the United States, they have the IBAN settlement, which I don't think yet it's out there. People, it's used. I mean, when I was active with clients relatively recently, wires were by IBAN. But I think the real risk to the United States is self-inflicted. I watched a video the other night. 10 airports in the United States are losing air traffic. They're down 60%. For example, Philadelphia's airport is down, and people from the rest of the world, instead of going there, because I guess it doesn't seem safe, they go through DC and Dulles Airport. So some airports apparently are picking up the slack. But overall, what was described seemed like the world is not coming here. We have visa costs. It now takes 90 days to get visa approval. Everybody gets screened as they come in. They'd rather go somewhere that's appears more friendly. I think what it is the rest of the world is sick of our involvement in the genocide. That's my opinion. And even on the side of Zelensky. But anyway, what's happening because of the sanctions and because of just mistake after mistake in U.S. policy for 20 years, arrogance, hubris, stupidity, wokeism, blindness, it just shameful recently, is that Russia, India, China are dead serious on creating not only an alternative settlement system, but creating honest markets. And that's the scariest thing to the United States. We have corrupt markets. It's not just the over-the-counter markets. It's the government bond market. It's the precious metals markets. Our bigger markets are corrupt, and they all work for a handful of consolidated, really big banks. And the rest of the world knows it. If Russia, China, India, maybe Brazil, I guess, can actually create markets that replace our over-the-counter market, which is a joke, or our equity markets, which are still an engine of the world, but there's a lot of fraud that goes on in there. And more importantly, if they can come up with a bond market, that's the threat, when they come up with a bond market. XRP, it's very important. I love XRP. I'm not dismissing it, but I don't think the government, and now that I'm saying it, maybe I'll just be wrong. I don't think the government's going to compensate it. I think we're going to war for collateral for the banks, but I also think we're going to war to, why does Trump want the Afghan air base back? Why does Israel want to take us to war against Iran? Why is Trump sending 200 troops to Gaza? Is that going to lead to a false flag event and then we're in war in the Middle East? We can't prosecute a war. We don't have the weaponry. Our troops are all woke. Not all of them, of course. And we have military equipment that will win World War II, but it won't win a hypersonic missile war. So why do we want to go to war? It could be just to screw up the road belt initiative, just to put our big fat butt in the middle of the trade routes of the world. I don't know, but we have two, we have three maybe strengths. One is we have the military, but if we are shown to be yesterday's Army and Marines in terms of weapons, that would be scary to expose that, and that could happen in the Middle East. But we still have the military, and that backs up our financial system, and of course the CIA and all the dark strategies. We have the deep bond market. We have the deep bond market, and nobody else has that in the world. And then the dollar still does 60% of world trade. I think we have strengths such that XRP isn't a threat yet. And frankly, if we were not aligned with the modern day Nazis, if we weren't on the side of the evil and for some reason taking that side against the entire world. I mean, Germany did it twice. They fought the entire world twice. That's where we are. I don't know why we're there. If we could ever get off of that, maybe we need younger leaders. I don't know. I think we need to go back to sleep. We have to get unwoke. I don't know the answer, but if we sort of came back on the good side of history, XRP isn't a threat per se to the economy of the United States. It's just there'll be a balance who gets the business. But we've been so unreliable. We've lied. We support a heinous regime and heinous actions in the Middle East that most of the world can't stand us for. And then worst of all, we cheat. Our markets steal money from people. And it says a hell of a lot that the rest of the world still has nowhere else to go that's better. As soon as Shanghai creates exchanges for gold, and maybe in the Middle East with Shanghai. They create honest oil exchanges. They create potentially a market that maybe speaks English. Doesn't have to, could speak Chinese. But if it's an honest capital formation market, money will pour there. Money goes where it's honest. Money goes where it's treated fairly and it's honest. And that's not in the United States. It's not in the United States. It's a shame. You know, I don't know how old you guys are. If your history books are all written by Zionists or what. But I grew up in a time where the United States firmly stood on the good side of history, or at least that's what I thought. And anyway, you may be right. The U.S. dollar is not going to go down without a fight, and there will be a fight if some of their other strategies don't work. The debt is massive in the United States. And I really don't think there's a way to recover from it without massive inflation, without 2 or 3 decades of suffering, maybe worldwide. But if we get cut out of Asia, if our economic system of credit goes down and we're no longer the world's consumer, life's going to change. But I think the planet gives us enough sunlight, enough. I mean, we used to have in the United States enough soil to grow our food, enough grass for puppy dogs to play in. And, we don't have to be the world's we're number one. We can let somebody else do it. Anyway, I've rambled from your question. I don't think they're going to confiscate XRP. They look like they're doing a pretty good job of trying to destroy cryptocurrencies. And crypto has not been tested in a market crash. It has not. What happens with crypto when there's margin calls in all of the market? Sure, everything will go down, but will crypto bounce back up? Nobody knows. Anyway, sorry for sort of a meandering answer. I'll think about that. I think it's a good observation on your part, Vin. Slowtronic, I think Railtown will go to $5 by Christmas. Revenue around the corner and everything in place. I hate being what seems like rose-colored glasses, and it could be that I am. But I think Railtown to go to $5 by the end of October, beginning of November. I think Railtown will go to $5 in the next 3 to 5 weeks, and by Christmas time, I think Railtown could easily be, $15, $20 a share. We may not understand what's going on up in Canada, but one advantage of sort of during the Cold War being in our shadow, Canada didn't make enemies. They haven't made an enemy of China or Russia, as far as I know. They've they've they I can't think of a country they've made an enemy of. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think their business and their AI business will be booming, and those people up there, Canucks, the investors, they'll understand what these press releases mean. My impression, Canada is a much smaller country in terms of the economy than the United States, and Wall Street's a massive place. But once you get to a certain level on Wall Street, which I'm not in, there's a flow of information, and you get the phone call. And Canada is making a big effort to lead the world in AI, from the national government to the the provinces and the local and medium governments organizations. They are all pushing for AI, and the investment crowd in Canada, that's where they're turning their money. And I think it's possible anyway that there's a lot of investors up there during the time, institutional or otherwise, that during the time that Railtown really couldn't speak to anybody, Railtown could talk to people they're negotiating with or strategizing with, as long as there's an NDA, and I bet there's a lot of people out there that understand exactly what's ahead, and I think it's really good. And they'll start buying. Just because they didn't buy in the first hours or necessarily on Thursday or Friday doesn't mean that buying's not coming. And remember, when these institutions and these retirement plans and these, sort of bigger, wealthier guys and girls start buying, that stock's off the market. So when the next group wants to buy, what stock are they going to buy? Are the shorts going to continue to just supply endless amounts of shares? I don't think so. So that's why I'm a little more aggressive in my targets than you are. I think once it can 2 steps forward, 1 step back a bit as it goes from 50 cents up the single digits. But once it crossed $5, $6, margin comes on in most accounts. Merrill Lynch rule is overridden because it's over 5. Institutions can buy, probably ETFs at that point, bigger ETFs can buy. And I think it's going to accelerate. I just hope it doesn't get out of control. One advantage of having the stock lower is some of these bigger institutions. This was explained to me by somebody. It made sense. Some of these bigger institutions and big investors can build their position while the stock price is relatively low. And if there's a short squeeze, they don't care. They hang on, by the way. They're not going to sell, but they already have their position. It's good to have them in, say 1 through 5, 1 through 6 or 7, and then they don't miss out if it squeezes. Anyway, I like your projection. I think $5 will happen in 5 weeks or sooner. Slowtronic, a deal with no impact on the stock price. Well, the way they write their press releases, let's say it'll be a delayed impact. I was just trying to come up with a calculation of what I thought the stock price could do next week. So that's why I just assume any revenue announcement they make will have no revenue in it. And it'll talk about how they can gather at, you know, at confabs and, you know, get to know each other, that kind of thing. So that's why I just put 0 for now. I think the revenue deals will build up, and as people start seeing what, none of us really understand the revenue model, but I don't think we're the audience. I think the audience are people up in Canada who do understand the revenue model. The fact that maybe they didn't buy Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week doesn't mean they're not going to start buying next week. And yeah, you're right. Revenue deals will, at some point in the future, they'll start being met instead of with skepticism, with optimism. But next week, I'm not counting it in my bump up. My target next week for the price is to go to $1.50, and I'm saying that buying that comes in Canada, delayed maybe, will be worth 50 cents. I think the vote being concluded in favor of the acquisition might be worth 25 cents a share. I'm trying to be, because I'm only looking at 1 week. And then I think there's a possibility, very strong possibility, research will come out next week. That's a prediction. So there's $1 there. I think there's $1 upside next week from those 3 things. Revenue might make it go up too. I'm just giving it 0 value. And the stock's at 50 cents, so I think the stock will end the week at $1.50. I could do that exercise for the following week, but it would be a little bit pointless because, I mean, I can't think what's going to happen the following week. You know, so maybe it's going to be 150 for 2 weeks. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Justin Babish, maybe the update research reports will have more to say after the final vote for the amalgamation. Yes, I don't think they have to wait for that. And I don't think, I see your point. Because this research report was just about Railtown, and you're pointing out that maybe they'll bring in the AI partners side of it. That's a good point. Maybe that argues for why this won't come out again this week, because maybe they have to talk to Railtown and to AI partners. That's possible. But I'd be burning the midnight oil if I were Venkata Velakapudi. That's what I would be doing. So I still stand by. I think research could come out next week. Jack Hamilton, good afternoon, William. Hope you're doing every well. So, well, let's see if RTS no toxin with a great plan for a great product. No worries. Yeah, there's no toxic lending. There's no toxic lending. So that means there's no big criminal behemoth such as the Toad needing to protect their position. There is some net short position, and that might be interesting. I sure hope that Wall Street has moved it around. And Railtown is not a short squeeze play. It's not a hot money play. It's not money that if the stock goes to 5, you should sell. Now, we'll pay attention, and we have to be alert if the story changes or something comes up. But it's not a stock to hop out of. You may not be able to get back in. And it could be, just like the dot-coms, that this is some global mania. But I don't think this is the dot-coms. The dot-coms were a very commerce-led, consumer-led idea. And you know what? They were right. Look what happened to Amazon. It worked. It's just not all of them worked. And a lot of cram downs came. But even that period, which I remember pretty well, that lasted for a while before it had that final run-up. And I don't think we're close to that in the best AI companies. And notice the arms race, as I understand it, is for the first movers. So it's not for, pet.com and tomato.com and joemama.com. But yeah, I think you're right. There's nothing to worry about from that standpoint. Hey, DMAC, yeah, I'm just I don't know what I'm doing. If you're like me, you've been thinking about it on the weekends, so I'm just realized that probably I shouldn't not be on. I don't know if I'm going to add anything. I want to show you maybe 1 or 2 videos if I'm not tired, and I want to show you some media stuff. Not a lot, but just two people asked about the data centers in Canada, and yeah, Justin Babish, the pending vote for AIP being announced makes the transaction more transparent and a stronger likelihood of regulatory approval given current updates about the direction before the shock to the stock. The deal's approved. The regulators have already approved it. There's no further regulatory approval needed. It's just a subject to shareholder vote. And these guys and girls that are going to vote, it just makes little sense to vote against this deal. Regardless of how good an idea AIP is, they invested in a private company with no liquidity, and which has yet to implement their plan. So to join this rather powerful software product company called Brailletown, although they may not fully understand it, they're hitching their wagon to the star. And I think the vote's going to be a matter of whatever they're doing. I just think the vote's going to be in the affirmative, and they've had a 4-day weekend, or will have had, and so they'll have all last week and the long weekend. I think it'll be finished next week, but it already has regulatory approval. And I don't think the stock was shocked. The stock went up like 35% 5% on the rumor, and it came back something like 15% on the news. It's not unusual. It's volatile. It's a young company, new to the market. There's shorts in there. Up until recently, they couldn't talk about anything. And even last week, did you hear the company talk about anything? Not yet. So that's not a critical to them. They're probably on the phone. They're probably lining other things up. You know, I wouldn't say that was a shock. I think upon reflection, we thought too much of that one bit of news, that it was going to be the spark for something more sooner. I think that news is the opening now for a whole lot of good things to be happening between now and the end of the year. And it's not going to stop at the end of the year. I just think they're going to press ahead. And Justin, I think this is me talking. I haven't heard it from anybody, but I think in software, as with any hot market, doesn't have to be software, any market where the animal juices are flowing and there's a competition and there's a desire to own the best, be the best, get there first. I know it sounds ludicrous, and I hope it doesn't happen, frankly, but there's always a chance for really high prices this year because someone wants to own the company. I hope it's next year. I hope we have time to get to higher prices, higher revenue. But some things you can't control, but I think everything's going to be good. Justin Babish, it might take 30 days to announce the vote. No, I don't think so. I don't know the answer. I don't even know if they'll announce it. They'll probably, they'll have an attorney write the press release and it'll say, further to the amalgamation, we've decided to take up a collection for the congregation and do a triangulation with the nation and get through 5 or 6 paragraphs. And oh, by the way, the vote was in. I don't know they'll put out an announcement about the vote. But Justin, I think the vote will be finalized next week. And whether it's announced or not, there'll be something filed. I guess it's called setter up there. I think it'll be done and dusted next week. If I'm wrong, it'll be the following week. But I think there's nothing complicated to this vote. It will, in my judgment, be finalized next week. And whether it's announced or not, it might be just a one sentence in a press release buried at the bottom. It'll have to be filed. There'll be some sort of filing. And I don't know how they call those up in Canada, but we'll be able to see it. And more importantly, I don't mean to put us all down. It doesn't matter what we think. What matters is what the institutions in Canada think, the OMERs, the Mavericks, the Canaccord funds, and I gave you a whole list of institutions. I can't remember them all. 100 of them up in Canada. It's what they think that's going to matter, and they're not going to wait. They're not confused by a press release. They don't need it to be announced. that the deal is finalized as long as they know it's finalized. So, Justin, this is a non-issue. It's not something to worry about. It is a loose end, but I think it's not hard to fix. It's not hard to tie up. And with the long weekend and with a few days last week and with highly motivated, hard people working on it, hardworking people on it, I think it's going to be done next week, Justin. And it doesn't need to necessarily be announced. It'll be filed. I was shocked. Hassan's dog. I don't get the reference. Justin Babish, Hassan's dog. Do you mean Diesel? How do you know Hassan? Hassan Roland Kirk. Crypto is mostly held by big institutions that will go down because they will pull from there to create liquidity. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Justin says for sure the last press release was an opening to what's coming. Okay, I just want to see what I have in my media because I had some things. But I guess I have to make some room for it. So I have to delete all this announcement. See, there's some of those capital companies. These are technology companies: BDC Capital, Innovia, Real Ventures, Golden Ventures, Arcturn. What if those 5 all wanted to own a piece and they don't need it press released? They don't need it press released. This isn't GTII or what's this? Oh, let's take that down without comment. All right, now let me see what I have. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. What's this one? Boom. All right, I'm just going to add all that. I'll just go through these. And I will go. There's a guy named, you must. Oh, I have some file that's not coming up. Why? Oh, because I downloaded it. Well, I'll go with what we have. My college roommate, one of them who went on to be quite famous and successful, he did a report and quoted Lord Acton at the beginning of it. And I was listening to one of the guys I listened to was a guy named Alex Kenner, I think. I actually listened to 3 different Alexes. Something like that. I think he's great, and without saying anything about myself. Some of his thoughts are things I've talked about and thought about for years. Others, every now and then, I go, that's one guy I'd love to run into and, maybe not have dinner with, but go out on a boat and go fishing in the Mediterranean for a couple of days. The guy is just sharp. But anyway, I heard him quote Lord Acton, so I found it. And Lord Acton says, the issue which has swept down the centuries and which will have to be fought sooner or later is the people versus the banks. That's Lord Acton. The issue which has swept down the centuries and which will have to be fought sooner or later is the people versus the banks. All right, a couple of the pictures, let me see what they were. I think I can do without them. They didn't come up, which is too bad. And they're not here. So I just have to do without them. All right, let's see which one comes first. 69. Oh, this, I was going to show you a video first, but I'll read you this first. This is September. TELUS opens Canada. This relates to the questions a couple of you were asking about data centers in Canada. TELUS opens Canada's first fully sovereign AI factory, highly secure facility powered by NVIDIA and HPE, delivers immediate access to cutting-edge AI compute power. We just have to live with that word. AI compute power for Canadian businesses, researchers, and public institutions. 100% Canadian controlled and operated with data sovereignty across multiple layers of security, data residence, and operational control. League, Accenture, OpenText, Advanced AI Innovation in Canada, powered by TELUS's sovereign AI factory, powered by 99% renewable energy. TELUS's global leading purifiable network. TELUS today announced the opening of Canada's first sovereign AI factory in Rimouski, Quebec, marking a historic milestone in the nation's stride toward technological independence, I guess away from us. The facility, accelerated by latest generation, industry-leading NVIDIA graphic processing units, that's processing to you and I and me, GPUs, in other words, and state-of-the-art computing infrastructure designed by HPE is now operational and serving customers, unlocking advanced AI capabilities for Canadian business and researchers and innovators while storing data within our national borders in data centers under Canadian control. Protected by the United States. Just kidding. Quote, today marks a defining milestone for Canada's digital future, says Darren Entwistle, President and CEO of TELUS. Indeed, with the launch of our nation's first fully sovereign AI factory in Rimouski, We are maximizing Canadian autonomy over sensitive data. Businesses, researchers, and governments should not have to rely on foreign-controlled systems to advance their AI ambitions. Today, we are helping to achieve that by delivering advanced compute power within data centers built, owned, and operated by Canadians. TELUS is safeguarding our data, protecting our sovereignty, and empowering our economy. From Rimouski to today and Kamloops tomorrow, we are creating the backbone for Canada's productivity, competitiveness, and global leadership in the digital era. TELUS, pioneering AI factories, leverage the latest generation technology from industry leaders like NVIDIA and HPE, and are powered by the billions of dollars we have already invested in our world-leading pure fiber network. Importantly, TELUS is providing the secure, sovereign foundation our country needs to create made in Canada solutions. I wouldn't brag about it. No, just kidding. Accelerate growth and secure our place in the digital economy for generations to come. TELUS's, T-E-L-U-S, TELUS's sovereign AI factory will empower organizations with total end-to-end development capabilities to build new AI models, model training, customize existing ones for specific needs, fine-tuning, and deploy them in business operations, interfacing. Through the new sovereign AI factory, TELUS, the first North American service provider to join the NVIDIA Cloud Partner Network, TELUS and its customers have access to NVIDIA's most advanced technology, proven to you, high performance reference architecture, and software stack that can dramatically reduce AI deployment time and cost. Quote, TELUS's new sovereign AI initiative is a welcome addition to Canada's growing digital infrastructure, said the Honorable Evan Solomon, Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation. Quote, expanding data and compute capacity here at home supports the government's vision for AI-driven productivity and competitiveness. By keeping data and compute within Canada, TELUS is contributing to responsible innovation and strengthening our broader economic objectives alongside the many other partners building critical data centers across the country. Sovereign AI infrastructure enables countries to innovate on their own terms while protecting their most valuable data, said Rani Vasiata, Senior Vice President of Telecom at NVIDIA. TELUS is bringing this vision to reality in Canada, building a robust platform combining the most advanced NVIDIA AI technology with their world-class infrastructure is a truly sovereign environment. This AI factory will provide Canadian businesses with capabilities to develop AI solutions, accelerate time to market, and compute and compete, sorry, on the global stage in preparation to be taken over by the United States of America. Quote, to accelerate AI innovation and drive a positive societal impact, nation states and public entities will need a purpose-built sovereign solution that delivers the scale, performance, and governance to unlock growth while protecting data and IP, said Trish Damkroger. Only a damn Kroger can marry a Kroger. Senior Vice President and General Manager, HPC and AI Infrastructure Solutions, HPE. TELUS investment in Sovereign AI Factory will empower Canada's public and commercial sectors to innovate in the era of AI, and we are honored to or something. Anyway, oh, there it is. We are honored to collaborate with them on delivering the critical infrastructure and services to advance their missions. League, Accenture, and OpenText advanced AI innovation in Canada, powered by TELUS's Sovereign AI Factory. TELUS fully sovereign platform will empower leading organizations and innovators to develop breakthrough solutions for Canadian enterprises. I find the word empower so wokish, but whatever, that's the word of the day, empower. Breakthrough solutions for Canadian enterprises. League, Canada's leading healthcare consumer experience provider, will run its comprehensive suite of AI-powered healthcare solutions using the TELUS Sovereign AI Factory. By leveraging TELUS's highly secure Canadian-controlled AI infrastructure, League will be able to deliver enhanced, personalized healthcare services to millions of Canadian users, improving patient outcomes while storing sensitive healthcare data within Canadian borders. Additionally, Accenture will develop and deploy industry-specific solutions on the TELUS Sovereign AI Factory platform, accelerating AI adoption across its Canadian clients in sovereignty-sensitive, highly regulated sectors, including public services, healthcare, critical infrastructure, and financial services. This strategic collaboration will provide Canadian businesses with access to a full spectrum of AI enablement services from strategy to deployment, while keeping intellectual property and data on Canadian soil. OpenAI will leverage TELUS's AI Factory to deliver sovereign, more secure, and scalable cloud AI solutions through its Aviator AI platform, serving over 1,600 Canadian enterprise and government customers with enterprise-grade cloud computing and AI that provides data residency, security, and compliance. Building Canada's AI leadership. The Sovereign AI Factory marks the next step in TELUS's long-standing leadership in AI, reinforcing its commitment to responsible AI innovation, productivity, economic growth in Canada, and building upon its complete range of AI solutions. including Fuel iX, an award-winning enterprise-grade generative AI platform. All right, there's only one more part of that. I think we can skim through it. Canadian AI research has always been world leading, but access to truly sovereign high performance computing infrastructure has been a critical gap, said Valerie Pisano, president and CEO of MILA, Quebec Artificial Intelligence Institute. TELUS's Sovereign AI Factory provides the Canadian AI community with the computational resources needed to advance breakthrough research while keeping our work within Canadian borders. This sovereign infrastructure enables us to translate Canadian AI innovations into real-world applications that benefit our economy and society. Powered by 99% renewable energy, the facility operates with 3 times greater energy efficiency than industry averages and reduces water consumption by 75% by using innovative natural cooling systems, proving that cutting-edge AI capabilities and environmental stewardship go hand in hand, and blah, blah, blah. All right, we'll take that out. We'll delete it. And then these graphs, I think, say the same thing the pictures were going to say. Number of data centers in the Asian Pacific region. Look at China, 449, Australia, 314. Those 2 countries have great relationships with Canada. Japan, 222, India, 153, Hong Kong, 122, Singapore, 99, and all the way down the list. And then countries with the most data centers, and this was last year, but I had another chart that was it. Anyway, it's about the same now. I think actually, anyway, it's about the same. United States comes in first. I think now China is in second place, but a year ago it was Deutsche came in second, Great Britain third, China fourth, and Canada fifth. Canada fifth. So Canada has, and Russia, I guess, is still in the top 10 there. Let's see what this one says. Top 25 countries with the most data centers. And this, I think, is more recent. Number 1, USA, USA, USA. We're number 1. We support, never mind. Number 2, Germany. Maybe this is same older data. UK number, because I really think China's number 2 now. UK number 3, China number 4, and there's Canada, number 5. Number 5. All right, let me just see if there was more that I wanted to show you. There's 2 or 3 that I couldn't download, but that's all right. All right, we're done with that. Cancel that. Can we buy shares in TELUS? Yeah, it's a public company. TELUS is a big company in Canada. You can buy it. I forget the symbol, but it's a Canadian company. It's blue chip. It's big, getting bigger. And in fact, I want to show you something from TELUS. This is all, I'm just trying to prepare, get information in while we have the time. While we have the time, just want to show you. I want to show you something, Justin, if I can show it from Oh, I see what I did wrong. I see what I did wrong. I go like that, and then I go like this, then I go like that. And I go like that, and I go like that. I don't think it was yesterday. Yesterday once more. Do-a-dee-dee-dee-do-ah. Do-a-dee-dee-dee-do-ah. It was yesterday once more. All right, let me get this to show you, Justin. And then I'm gonna, while it plays, I'll be listening, but I'm gonna go quickly drink some water.
So look, at this event, it's been all about AI, automation, and sovereign AI has really come on as a major topic recently. And telco-run AI factories are starting to spring up, and TELUS is one of the early movers there. Can you tell us about that? Indeed. What this AI factory is, why it's been developed, and how it fits into your strategy?
You bet. We are very proud about this. We announced this a few months back. So we are building an AI sovereign compute factory that we want to have up and running before the end of the summer this year. We are the first service provider in North America that is an NVIDIA cloud partner. And the main reason that we're doing this is by different angles. One is we have a need of sovereign compute in the country. From a government perspective, a health perspective, there's many needs that we want this for. We also want to be less reliant on computing that is not governed or controlled by us. Okay. And we are working with the public sector, the private sector, to start to line up the interests and the offerings that we want to have in this environment. The other thing that is really important for Canada is our productivity has been not as good in the last 5 to 10 years. So we need to have different ways that we can work in the country to be able to provide working solutions to large enterprises, small, medium businesses, so they can use this technology to be able to increase productivity in the country that we badly need. And the other thing that is really important is Canada has top talent researchers on the AI domain. If you look at AI, many of the godfathers of AI are from Canada. Okay. And to be able to keep these researchers and to grow the number of researchers, you need to have access to compute. Right. Researchers are going to go wherever the compute is. They want just to research, to be able to experiment. So we're very proud of the announcement. We are going to start really soon. And we're going to see the great things that we're going to be able to create and offer through these solutions.
I presume that TELUS is going to be one of the main first users of this.
Of course, we are looking forward to use it as well. But equally important for us is to be able to have other enterprises or government who actually can use these services too. The other thing I wanted to add is it's not only about the AI compute side, but it's also how are we providing that AI compute. So the data centers that we are going to use to house this AI compute, they are very energy efficient. Right. And 99% of the energy comes from renewable sources because we have the ability and the geographical gift that we actually can use hydropower. And the other thing that we have just that is tied on how the data centers were conceived, but also geographical positions of Canada where these data centers are. Our efficiency and power to run the data centers are 3x above the average.
Okay.
So we actually can provide not only the compute, but we provide in a very secure, privacy and sustainable, efficient manner for anybody who wants to use it.
I mean, a few years ago, everybody was talking about sustainability and green, and then that kind of got pushed to the side a little bit by AI, but that's still really important for everybody.
It is important.
Consumers, enterprises, governments.
Indeed. And that's something that, the way we conceive this is to be able to hit all the different marks. We want to be able to provide the best compute possible. So the GPUs we're going to run there are the latest generation of Blackwell H200s. So it's the latest that you can find. They're going to be in a very sustainable environment that is very eco-friendly. And we're going to be able to scale it because the data centers that we have the space and power required to be able to scale this really heavily in the months and years to come.
Really exciting development. So look forward to seeing how that evolves. Now, another one of the key trends and topics at this event over the 2 days has been around data and telco data management. And, we've been talking about this since forever.
It's been a while.
About dirty data, about data silos, blah, blah, blah. Can you tell us about Thales's data management strategy? I mean, do you still have silos, or have you worked past that?
No more silos.
No more silos, okay.
So one of the things that came public last year, there was public announcements that Google did and we did on our side as well, because we completed our full data modernization program that we started back in 2021.
Okay.
So we last year we shut down the legacy data lake platforms that we used to have, and now we have a full cloud native, we call it the data hub, where all the high quality data sets across the company run in a private and secure manner. And when we were doing that, also we have very efficient ways where we democratize the data. So teams across the company can experiment, or they can run production grade workloads on their own. They don't have to go through me. They just can go and, we provide them the right tools and workbenches so they can do this work. And you can use this to go and build a 10,000 line code for machine learning, or you just can do some analytics and create visualization for them. You can go in a big spectrum and range of things that you can do. But the focus is to allow the company to self-serve themselves and ensure that they actually can transform the way they do their business by leveraging better data and creating better solutions with AI and Gen AI. On the Gen AI front, I don't know if you remember, but one of the things that we did from 2023, we saw a clear need to democratize safe and private secure environment where the team members could experiment and explore what Gen AI could do. This was the beginning of 2023, was very recent. And one of the things that when you look at now is we have a platform that we created that is scaled called FuelIX. Any day we have around 55,000 team members in TELUS using this platform because they use it to create their own copilots. So you have teams who actually create solutions for their own teams, or we actually create use cases enterprise grade that uses the same platform to be able to transform different, the operations and how we do business across the company. That has been a very good success. And since the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, the tool is also being sold to our sister company, TELUS Digital, as a solution that other companies can use.
So I imagine that must have involved quite a major training, upskilling, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Was that enthusiastically, taken on by the TELUS population?
Absolutely. So the way that we tackle AI and Gen AI is there's a top-down and bottom-up strategy. One of them is we believe the best ideas are all over the business, but you need to give everybody in the business tooling to be able to experiment, learn, explore. Yeah. We also have very strong AI literacy programs across the company. And, every couple of years, actually, all executives, we go to different universities. We were, in 2023, we were at Stanford. This year, we were at MIT. And then these professors, they come and have sessions with all the directors across the company, then the managers across the company. And the main reason that we do that is to ensure that we have an equal footing to understand what this technology can do, what platforms tooling are available to you in the company to safely and securely do that. And we have seen tremendous, great amount of good ideas. You get people motivated to learn. Who doesn't want to actually learn and experiment with Gen AI? Everybody is dying and willing to do this. Yeah. So when you give them the right literacy and you combine that with good tools and a good cultural environment that foments the experimentation, then you get to where we are. That is a very good mature state on how we actually create ideas to life.
You must also have a model to be able to track what people are doing and share what people are doing.
Of course. So part of the success is how you create champions all across the business that are actually taking this to the forefront. And you want to have communities of practice where you can take them and they can showcase what they are doing, what worked well, what didn't work well. And then you get a very nice virtual cycle that actually stimulates better and better outcomes, better ideas. So my main recommendation for anybody is just get started. Yeah. When you start, you create a momentum. You create these snowball effects that you get more literacy across the company, better ideas, more champions, and that deeply accelerates what you can transform with AI.
Yeah, I get the sense here from the companies that are here, many of them have started on getting their governance just right in that and setting the parameters and are now heading down that path as well. So it's going to be great to see what comes out. And then finally as well, this event, still a very heavy focus on how AI can improve efficiencies, help network operators to save money, not quite so much on how they can make money. Can you talk about the business models or the financial outcomes from the use of AI at TELUS? Is it both sides of the fence then?
So it's both sides. One of them, of course, there's streams of work on how can we run certain things more efficiently. But there's also a lot of focus on how we use this to actually create better outcomes for new products that we do or existing ones that we sell. So for example, many of the solutions that we are working on is on the B2B side, how we can make the sales organization more efficient. Just think about somebody that is tending to the mid-market. You have maybe 50 or 100 accounts that you need to manage and ensure that they are okay. Humanly, it's very hard to understand at any given moment exactly what the last conversation with any of the 50 or 100 were, what was their feedback, what is the right thing that you should talk next time. So we have created solutions that allow sales team members to be able to use these and get information on if you're going to meet a client, what is the right thing you should talk about? What is the last conversation that happened? What is the outcome? And more than that, we've been able to also create Gen AI to look at all the business account plans and have Gen AI rate them all. So they can go and tell you feedback to say, well, maybe you could actually improve this part, or this part will be even greater if you did A, B, or C. And the good news is this being embraced by the business organization. And to my point, you have champions. You have champions there that are saying, hey, I'm using this every single day. And the other thing that is really cool, some of these champions, they just want to showcase to their friends how they're using these tools. They create videos and they show these videos to their colleagues, right, so they can get stimulated and actually, work with them on how they can transform and get help from these tools in their day-to-day job.
Well, anything that helps salespeople to improve their bonus is always going to be embraced.
Good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Jaime, thanks very much for joining us today. Great to get an update on what TELUS are doing. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Ward Richardson at 6 p.m. right now. Just getting in a seat you're taking about data science and where Oklo new scale power comes in with small modular reactors, if I remember correctly, 2 year. Yeah, I went, at the conference I went to in August, there was, I'd say at least three, there might have been a couple of more companies talking about these kind of things. And I met the CEO of one. I think she didn't like my question, but it's pretty interesting stuff. These new nuclear power plants buried deep in the earth, all for data. It's very interesting. Um, some trigger words in the interview. Uh-oh. First, AI builders are Canadian. We want them to stay in Canada. Teledata processing reminds me of Sapientas. Martin Shen spent a lot of time in Canada. Well, Justin. We got to stop doing that. There's absolutely nothing in common between finger motion and Railtown. When you look at a company and you invest in it, you should have best you can. It's an evolving thing, but you should have an idea of what you think the company's worth. And if you don't know what you're doing, you do the best you can. If you're a really smart person with all the, calculators and et cetera, maybe you can get a very precise number. Neither projection is going to be correct, but you do the best you can. And in the case of finger motion does 35 million a year in revenue, roughly. They've done it last year and the year before. Maybe they'll do it this year. Its main revenue to date comes from a highly competitive, low margin, but safe business, which is selling minutes. It also has, unfortunately, either because of China's population collapse, which is my opinion, nobody else shares it with me, China's gigantic debt pile, China's aging population problem. Maybe those are the negatives, but also just that we're going to war with China economically. Chinese stocks are not, they've rallied back and some people came back in, but I forget who it was. Some hedge fund said China's uninvestable. Well, you can argue our company it's a U.S. company, but that's like saying I can't come up with a I can't think of an example, but a company that does all of its business in China is, you could argue it's a Chinese company. Anyway, Justin, just as a starting point, what should finger motion be worth? Everybody can come up with their own opinion. But I think that revenues that don't grow by very much, and where there's no earnings at all, I would say it's worth 1.5 times revenue, maybe 2 times. So that would give you a company that should be trading, at 35 million to 70 million market cap. In fact, finger motion, I think, trades now over 100 million, and sometimes it gets a lot higher. Why does it do that? Well, it's promoted a lot, which is fine. You like I always repeat, stocks are sold, not bought. Somebody's got to tell the story, and they deserve to get paid for it. But the core story behind finger motion is there's a gigantic short position, and therefore you're going to have this huge rally to thousands of dollars. Now, for me, my experience with finger early on was pretty good. You know, I bought some at a reasonable price, and it ran up fairly quickly. But for this, I'm sorry this is so cluttered, but every time finger motion goes up, the shorts drive it down. What does that tell you? They love it. As people buy it to higher than what it should be worth, you know, and I guess there's, you know, it should probably, I don't want to say it out loud, but the price per share to equate to 35 to 70 million market cap is lower than here. And so every time it runs up, the shorts run it down, they take all that money out, and then it pops back up again, and then it runs down, and then it pops up. And that's a trading vehicle. If you can buy while it's down and be disciplined enough to sell while it rallies, you're going to make money. But if you listen to the whole story that it's going to squeeze and stay in too long, like I did the first time around, thinking it was going to squeeze like a complete idiot, particularly in retrospect, what's going to convince you, if I tell you, you're not going to believe me, but Wall Street is not going to buy in those shares. There was once before the chart started, once after the first down red arrow, then the second red arrow, then the second time it went up, and then the big down red arrow, and then recently it went up. What's going to convince you that they're not going to squeeze the stock? So what's going on? People, and I'm not saying the obvious one, people who are being paid shares are getting the stock to go up. I think that's what's happening right now. There's one guy who only works on stock if he's paid shares. And I think they're going to sell it out. So, which is, I mean, as long as you know what they're doing, let them do what they're doing. You don't have to get caught up in it. But Martin Shen, being from Vancouver or wherever, it's like, God. It's just idiotic to compare the two. It's completely idiotic. Ham promotes finger motion. Ham does not promote Railtown. Ham believes the story that Wall Street's going to buy in the shorts. I no longer do, which is maybe why he turned to Frank Benedetto and others. But I don't know. You have to ask him. I don't want to speak for anybody. But to compare the two means you don't understand what you own, Justin. Just it means you don't understand what you own. I hope you don't get shaken out by really weak or sloppy thought processes. Finger motion is a catch a shining star type stock. Railtown I'm not going to go through the story again of Railtown. But Railtown doesn't need Justin Babish. It doesn't need me. It doesn't need a whole group of people to get seduced on Twitter, to buy the stock, run it up, put out some bogus press release. I'm not saying Finger ever did that. And then hope the stock squeezes, and then the computers come in, it runs up, and then the toad backs the financing and it comes back down. That is not Railtown, Justin. So the trigger words: AI builders are Canadian. First AI builders are Canadian, and we want them to stay in Canada. That's fine. Look, who cares where the money's made? And who cares what they tell each other? Just, I understand you're triggered. Doesn't bother me. I guess I'm from a different generation. Teledata processing reminds me of Sapientus. Martin Shen spent it. Yeah, look, I still think Sapientus is going to be a very valuable part of finger motion. I think finger motion maybe was ahead of the thought process, but please, I think finger motion is priced, when it gets going upward, it's priced for a squeeze. That's never going to happen unless it's manipulated or unless there's some big surprise. This is all in my opinion. It's priced for the potential of Sapientus. It's priced for the potential of the insurance. It's priced for the C2 contract, which is growing slowly. I think Martin Shen's doing a great job. It's just a conservatively run, slow-growing company that's going to make sure everyone gets their salary, and lightning could strike, but as soon as Frank sells the stock he gets, if he did, I don't know, he'll be gone, or he'll do it as a favor because he's getting stock in another one. Justin, some of these stocks that everybody's hearing, I'm no longer in the clue of it, but it's some of the same whales. And if they can get one of them to run, they'll come around and do the others. But it's all manipulated. It's all bullshit. It's not that they're bad people. It's not that it can't work. But these stocks, they pale in comparison to Railtown. It's almost painful to compare it to Railtown. Railtown absolutely has nothing to do with a guy sitting at a bar down in Puerto Rico with a cigarette and a phone and saying, you know, we could do this, we could shuffle that, we could put that in. And then another guy showing up briefly, processing it and going in and playing poker. And then everybody meets at a loud restaurant, the music's so loud you can't hear what everybody thinks, and then, hey, let's get together for lunch, and you meet at the beach, and people show up when they do, and it's quieter, but it's so casual. Again, you don't get a whole hell of a lot done, and then you have a scheduled meeting for the next day that never happens. I mean, it's not that. It's not that. Railtown is not that. But anyway. Justin, I don't want to distract a finger. It's okay to talk about Finger, but to tell me it's a trigger word and it's Sapientus is just... It's a little mind-numbing. It's really mind-numbing. I don't want to distract a finger. I was just saying teledata has been a hot topic. Yes, I don't know what teledata means. Telegraph, telephone, teledata, and telewoman. I don't know what teledata is, but the idea of a cloud and cloud computing has been something that Martin Shen has been in the forefront of. China's in the forefront of, and you know all this. Finger Motion has built a lot of good relationships over the years with their top-up business and with the telecoms, three of them in China. I assume the telecoms in China could follow the same path that telecoms elsewhere are following, and it could be quite fruitful for Finger Motion in the future. Right now, Finger Motion is probably going to have to raise some money, and Finger Motion has to get to profitability, and Finger Motion has to explain how it's going to grow its C2 contract rapidly without it taking the C2 contract and data are completely different value propositions. Finger Motion is not Railtown. Full stop. Full stop. And Martin Shen says process like a Canadian because he used to be CEO of a Canadian company in the past. Seems like a commonality. I went to a black tie event in London and took a picture of Lindsay Lohan staring right at me. And I guess that's a commonality I have with the paparazzi. I don't know. Look, I'm gonna on that. We can all take the evening off and think about Justin's commonality between Finger and Railtown, and I appreciate it, Justin. I'm just too tired to really comprehend it. The CEO of Finger says process. The CEO of Finger was from Canada. The CEO with Finger talks about Teldata. There's a commonality, and I think we can. Why don't we use that thought? That'll calm us all and get us well into next week, thinking about what our stock's going to do. So let's go back to Ward. Good evening, William. It's 6 p.m. now, just getting in. I see you were talking about data centers. Yes. And this is where Oklo and NuScale Power comes in with small modular reactors. If I remember correctly, 2 years to build these. Yes, the small reactors using recycled waste. Yeah, 2 years ago, I met a great CEO of one of these companies, and I've got to follow up with them. I haven't, and that's true of a lot of situations because I'm just waiting and waiting. But that's exactly what he said, Ward. They can use they can use old waste, nuclear waste. So he met my objection head on and said it's a way of getting rid of some of that waste, and so that's a good thing. And it takes 2 years to build. So I think one of your points might be that Teles's data center in Iskaminsky, or wherever it is, Wiskaminsky, is already built, and that's an advantage that they have. And they're using, I assume, hydropower because That's the only thing I can think of that's, uh, you know, completely green up there. I would use natural gas, which I think is essentially green. But anyway, yeah, it's a good point. It gives an advantage to Canada, gives an advantage to Telesis, and to the extent that NVIDIA is up there working with them, I guess it gives an advantage to NVIDIA and anybody else that comes in there. I'm going to call it there because it's almost 7. I didn't mean to go on very long. I do want to just suggest again that I think next week, I just sat down with a pad of paper and I tried to, as much as anything, guesstimate what could happen next week and what could it do to the price of the stock. What's the environment next week? Unfortunately, Railtown is going to trade Monday in the United States, and it's not going to trade in Canada. It looks like Canaccord Genuity has stepped in to the bid as of Friday, which might mean that they've been loosened from any restrictions and what they could do during that long period of time before the acquisition was announced, albeit pending shareholder, but it's out in the open. So people can trade, they can buy, they can sell, they can talk, all the information, the deal terms are in the open. That's a huge plus for us going forward. But anyway, Monday might give you an opportunity to buy stock inexpensively. Maybe you put a order in to buy Railtown before the market opens on Monday. Pick a number, 45 cents, 42 cents. Look at a chart. Just pick anything. Maybe I don't think they will, but they will try to break it down Monday, and maybe you get some cheap stock. It's cheap already. Maybe. Anyway, that's up to you. But once we get through the final chance for the criminals to attack, which is Monday, I think the fact that Canaccord seems to be on the bid supports that 50-cent price. And then I think these are my points. You can have your own. But I think Railtown, Corey Brandolini in particular, but everybody at Railtown and at AIP Partners probably have been peppered with phone calls. And hey, is that what you expected? Is that good? And I bet from those conversations, which have probably been from dawn to dusk, buying, because Railtown is now able to tell its story broad and wide, trumpet its story, I think buying will come in next week as a result of that. And I think that'll be worth 50 to 75 cents a share. But I used 50. I used the lower number. Revenue, I bet they start making announcements. They have to start sometime, because I would imagine they've built up a pipeline. Maybe they start next week. But if there is a revenue announcement, and if it's written like any of the last 4 or 5, I would expect that'll have zero impact on the price of the stock next week. The cumulative effect of all these revenue announcements is going to kick in at some point when there's an aha moment, or there's an explanatory moment. But, knowing what I know right now, I'm just going to say it meets with kind of oh well. And then I think the vote will be, if it hasn't already been completed, it's very simple. I don't think it's a big deal. It's just process. If it hasn't already been completed, I'd imagine it will get completed next week. Will they announce it, or will they bury it in the second or third paragraph of a 4-paragraph announcement? I don't know. They haven't shown much of a marketing eye in their releases, and maybe that's good. Maybe that's keeps them clean. But I don't think it matters. The vote, once accomplished, they'll file it. So whether or not they have a separate press release, there will be a filing. And it's already approved by the regulators. There's nothing left. It's all good. So I think the vote would add 25 cents to 50 cents next week. Remember, I'm assuming it's next week. I could be wrong. So I use 25 cents. I do think this research guy at Research Capital will come out with a research report next week. Am I jumping the gun? Very likely. And maybe it's because he needs to talk to AIP. But I think he has, or she has, an incentive to get out, be out first, get their report out. So if as the stock starts to rally, he or she gets the benefit of being first and early with that report. So I predict it to come out next week. So that's I think worth 25 cents to 50 cents. So I use 25 cents. As the stock goes over $1, that's worth something. As it goes over $2, that's worth something, and FOMO and all that. But I just use 0 in both of those cases. The only other thing I can think that might come out next week, but they would have to be working their butt off, but maybe they'd use an AI agentic tool to get it done. But if they came out with a new presentation, a new corporate presentation, and it went up on their website, I think that would be worth gold to the company. If they did it next week, would it make the stock go up next week as much as it will? Probably a little bit. So maybe you give that 25 cents. I'm not giving it anything. The stock is 50 cents today. I assume if the criminals are even remotely successful on Monday, it won't last. And it may not work at all, by the way. So I start with 50 cents. I add 50 cents for all the hard work Corey's and everybody else has been doing, talking to investors over the last many days. I add 25 cents for the vote in the affirmative being completed, whether it's announced or not. I don't think it matters. And then I also add 25 cents for research. That's just for next week. I think all of those things will add much more to the stock as the weeks go forward. But just for next week, so I had $1. I think the next week's target for me, I think the stock will exit the week at $1.50. And you guys could do your own thinking and kind of calculate it out. Monday might be an opportunity to put some orders under the market just in case the bad guys put pressure on it. But I don't think they're going to meet with any success. Nobody from Canada will be selling on Monday. So you know that none of the real knowledgeable insiders, so to speak, will be selling. They'll just be coming after your shares because they know you're retail to the Wiles, I can't find my, I can't find it. The number, we're at 13,500,000. So I'm going to leave it there and sign out. I hope everyone has a good evening. I might come on after mass tomorrow, in the evening tomorrow, but I may not. I don't know. But right now, I just wish everyone peace.